Hey guys, my name's Austin Lloyd and I'm a portrait photographer, and today I'm going to show you the best way to edit skin in Photoshop. And before we get into that, I just want to say the fact that you're watching this video is awesome. The fact that you're taking time to invest in your skill set, in your knowledge as a photographer, as a retoucher, is one of the best things you can be doing if you want to be a professional. I've been a full-time freelance photographer for the past 5.5 years, and I think it's safe to say that at least 80% of what I've learned has just come from YouTube videos and then practice and some paid courses, but mainly YouTube. So I'm really excited to be able to give back and share what I know with people, just because it's been so beneficial for me. So what I'm going to be teaching today, it's not my full workflow with portrait retouching, but it's going to be two things, which is just like a basic skin cleanup using a healing brush and then frequency separation. So this isn't everything that I'll do to an image, but this is what I do mainly just to focus on the skin part. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and I'll show you. So this is an image that I took from a commercial shoot a couple years ago. And what I like to do to start is we're just going to create a blank layer above this one. So to do that, I'll hit Shift, Option, Command, N. So now we have a new blank layer, and I'll go over and pick the healing brush tool. So there's two things that I like to use in this. There's the healing brush and then there's the spot healing brush. So the healing brush tool, basically, just to give like a quick lowdown on how this goes, how this works. So for the healing brush, if I want to heal this little spot out, I need to hit Option and sample this area and paint over. So I have to go and hit Option and click and sample a point and then paint. But for the spot healing brush, we don't have to do the sampling. Photoshop kind of decides for us, so I can just paint over one little spot and it sort of makes the decision for us. But as you can see, it's not always the cleanest look, so most of the time I like to stick with the healing brush where I'm choosing where it's sampling from. So what I'll do first is just go ahead and clean up some of these blemishes that we see. So I'm just hitting Option or Alt and picking those points. I don't want to be too zoomed in, but I want to just get some of those more distracting elements out. That's great. I don't really know what to talk about while I'm doing all this because it's just a pretty repetitive task, so I might just speed it up. Okay, that's looking pretty good. There's more I could do, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'll go ahead and stop now. So what I'll do is hit Command G to put this layer in a new group, and I'm just going to call that Clean. And we can toggle this off and on just to see what we've done so far. So the next step after I do my basic cleanup is a technique called frequency separation. So what frequency separation is basically taking the color and lighting information of an image and separating that from the texture of an image so we can make non-destructive edits and basically clean up the transitions between light and shadow to kind of just give the skin a more polished look. So it'll make more sense as I go, and I'll explain it more as I go. To get it all set up is a little bit complicated. I'm going to teach you how to do it, but I've also included a Photoshop action in the link below that makes it a lot easier. This isn't a thing you want to be doing every time you're editing an image, because it's really time consuming, and you just want to make sure that you're as efficient as possible and that you have things in your workflow that make your process really quick so you can have more time to do other things. So what we'll do to get this set up is create a stamp visible layer of everything that we've done so far. So we hit Shift Option Command E, and then we'll go ahead and hit Shift Option Command E one more time. So now we have 2 layers. So we'll go ahead and hide the other one, and we'll click on this one. So the first layer, what we're about to do now is get our color and lighting information layer ready. So with layer 2 selected, we're going to go down to Blur, Gaussian Blur. And this is just going to, or the point of this is just to blur out the image enough that we can't see the texture. So typically anywhere between 2 and 3 is where I like to go. Actually, maybe a little higher. That's great. Actually, let's try 4.5. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so now with layer number 3, this is going to be our texture layer that we're about to get ready. So there's 2 different ways to do it based on if you have an 8-bit image or a 16-bit image. Right here in the end of the file name, that'll either say 8 or 16, and that'll tell you what bit your image is in, or you can go up here, click Image, Mode, and one of these that are checked will tell you. So I'm going to show you how to do it for 16-bit, but the actions will include it for an 8-bit image if that's what you have as well. So with layer 3 selected, let's go up to Image, Apply Image. So with layer, this needs to be layer 2. So we're selecting our color layer. Blending mode needs to be Add. Scale should be 2, offset should be 0, and invert needs to be selected for this to work. So when you're doing an 8-bit image, there's some settings that are different, but with the action that's included, you'll be able to do it just fine and not worry about it. So the last thing we need to do is just change our blending mode down to linear light. And the last thing to do is click down on layer 2 and create another new blank layer by hitting Shift Option Command N. So I'll go ahead and rename these. This is low. This layer is where we're going to be painting and making our adjustments. So I'll just call that B for brush. And then this is the high, or texture layer. So now I'm going to shift click those and hit Command G to group them, and we'll just rename that frequency. Okay, so the way we actually start to make adjustments is we hit B for the brush tool. So while we're doing this, we want a really low flow. So I always like to keep it between 1 and 2%. What we start to do now is just take samples of these areas where there's a highlight here and shadow here, and we want to smooth that transition. And we just sample dark and the highlight and start to paint it very gently to smooth out those transitions. And as you can see, it's very subtle, but it makes a big difference in the long run. So I sample every couple strokes and and I change the size of my brush based on the area that I'm painting. This is a really good technique for toning down highlights too. And just sampling a slightly darker color and painting over those highlights will really smooth it out. That looks great. That's awesome. Okay, let's go before and after, which that looks pretty good. A lot of times with retouching, it's really easy to overdo it. So when I'm on the frequency separation, a lot of times I like to drop my opacity down around to 70 or 80. Maybe we'll do 75. So I don't want it to look too unnatural. Now we can go before and after everything. Alright, well thank you guys for taking time to watch this tutorial. Make sure that you go and download those frequency separation actions in the link below, and we'll see you next time.